Councillor Pasternak, you may begin.
Sorry?
Councillor Pasternak, you may begin.
Thank you very much. Well, good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. My name is Councillor James Pasternak. I'm the chair of the North York Community Council. Clerk has confirmed that we have quorum, and I'd like to call meeting 21 to order and welcome everybody. Meeting is being held using the city's WebEx technology with members of council participating by video conference. City staff are also connecting to the meeting by video conference. As City Hall remains closed, the public continues to participate electronically and can watch the meeting streaming live on YouTube at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. Because we're meeting remotely, we ask for your patience for any delays and technical issues. We currently have 2 people registered to speak. We've been connected by the meeting by audio. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting North York Community Council's page at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. Before we begin, I want to remind you of the important health and safety measures that we must follow today. Attendance in the room, and I guess clerks and myself are all working remotely today, is limited to those persons who are required for the meeting. Audiovisual IT staff are at City Hall helping conduct the meeting. Members, this is a paperless meeting. City Clerk has provided all agenda materials via CMP, the clerk's meeting portal, including any confidential materials. Clerk's IT staff will be available remotely to participants to help them with their devices. I'd like to remind staff to keep their mics muted with their videos turned off unless they need to answer questions or speak to the committee. This will make it easier for me as chair and for those watching on YouTube to observe members as they participate in the debate and vote on items. As part of each agenda item, I'll ask members to raise their hand or unmute their mic if they wish to question staff or speak. I'll then create a speakers list and we'll call on members when it's their turn to speak. When voting on an item or motion, I ask that members ensure that they turn on their video if applicable and raise their hand to indicate their vote. To ensure I can see all members, I'd ask that you keep your hands raised until I've reviewed all members' votes. Members, I want to remind you, must still approve your motions by email, and staff are available at nycc@toronto.ca to help with motions. If there are any visiting members of council attending the meeting, I would encourage you to turn on your video so that I know that you are present and can give you the opportunity to ask questions of staff or speak. This will also assist in the clerk's staff to record attendance for the meeting. Although we were all in different locations and meeting remotely today, the Community Council would like to acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississauga of the Credit. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? If you do have an interest, please raise your hand and unmute your mic and indicate which item and the nature of the interest. I don't see any hands going up. Okay, we're good. Next, we need to confirm the minutes for our last meeting on December the 3rd, 2020. Can I have someone move the minutes?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Oh,
Councillor Carroll.
Councillor Carroll moves them. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We have a number of new items that are going to be added to the agenda. Why don't we just take them as a package? Some of them seem to be on the demolition side. I hope everyone's taken a look at what they are. All those in favor of adding the 7 new items to the agenda? Opposed? That is carried. Now, the first item of business is clerical in nature. I'm just filling in as chair for today's meeting, but we need an election of a chair. So I'm going to ask the clerk to conduct the election.
Good morning, councillors. The first item of business is item NY 21.1, election of chair. Members, are there any nominations for chair?
I would nominate Councillor James Pasternak.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson has nominated Councillor Pasternak. I am calling for nominations again. Are there any further nominations for chair? I'm calling for nominations a second time. Are there any further nominations for chair? I'm calling for nominations a third and final time. Are there any further nominations for chair? Hearing no further nominations, I declare that nominations are now closed. As Councillor Pasternak is the only nominee, he's declared chair of Community Council.
Well, thank you very much, colleagues, for your confidence. If only all elections were that easy. And thank you, Councillor Robinson, for the nomination. The next item of business is actually the election of a vice chair, and I would now turn to the clerk to conduct the election.
Members, are there any nominations for vice chair?
Yes, I would nominate Councillor Carroll.
Councillor Pasternak has nominated Councillor Carroll. I'm calling for nominations again. Are there any further nominations for vice chair? I'm calling for nominations a second time. Are there any further nominations for vice chair? I'm calling for nominations a third and final time. Are there any further nominations for vice chair? Hearing no further nominations, I declare that nominations are now closed. As Councillor Carroll was the only nominee, she is declared vice chair of North York Community Council.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Councillor Carroll.
Thanks, colleague.
Okay, let's go through the agenda for non-timed items. There has been a request by Councillor Cole to look at items 21.9 and 21.10, but we might be able to deal with them quickly as we run through the agenda. So if they're held, Councillor Cole, we will move them to the top. Because Councillor Cole has to leave soon.
Where's he going? He's not supposed to be going out.
It'll be a scandal. It'll be Travelgate. Okay. Item 21.5, preliminary report, zoning bylaw amendment, rental housing demolition applications, 109 Erskine Avenue. Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, sorry. What's the number again? I couldn't. You cut out for me. 109.
Oh,
okay.
21,
Yeah,
21.
I got it. I got it. I'd like to move staff recommendations on that item.
Okay, staff recommendations move on 21.5. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 21.6, preliminary report, zoning bylaw amendment, 175 Winford Drive. Deputy Mayor Minnan-Wong.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to move the recommendations, and I've sent a email to the clerk's office with some changes to the notification area, and I'm assuming that will, be executed administratively.
You can do it
anyway.
offline. Yeah.
Yeah, I've already done it.
Okay.
So.
Okay, fair enough. 21.6, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 21.7, preliminary report, official plan and zoning bylaw amendment application, 105 Shepherd Avenue East, 24 and 26 Leona Drive. Councillor Fillion.
I'll move staff recommendations.
Staff recommendations moved on 21.7. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 21.8, removal of taxi cab stand, Dufferin Street, north of Shepherd Avenue West. That is my ward. I'd be happy to move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Now, Councillor Cole, these are the two items you wanted to complete before departure. So let's see what happens here. 21.9, payment in lieu of parking, 2586 Yonge Street.
I'll move staff recommendations.
Okay, staff recommendations move on 21.9. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 21.10, traffic calming Rosewell Avenue. Once again, Councillor Moore.
I'll move staff recommendations.
Staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. I guess, Councillor Cole, you're free to leave.
I'll be around for a few more minutes. I can't tear myself away.
No, no, you're welcome to stay.
The
21
excitement is gripping.
It'll get better. 2111 car share vehicle parking areas. Two wards involved. Councillors Robinson and Fillion.
I'll move that.
Councillor Robinson, are you?
Yeah, I had a quick question for staff on that. But
Should we hold it?
it's not life or death, really. You know what? I'm just going to move it, and I'll ask staff later about it. That's fine. I'll move it.
Okay.
Staff rep.
Councillor yeah, okay. All those 2111 car share vehicle parking is being moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 2112 U2 Prohibition, Fresh Meadow Drive. Councillor Carroll?
Sorry about that. Yes. Yeah, I'll move staff recommendation. Staff recommend approval.
Okay, staff recommendations moved on 2112. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 2113 through restrictions. Bicycles accepted westbound only, Young and Avondale Avenue, Florence Avenue. Councillor Fillion.
I'll move that.
Okay, staff recommendations moved on 2113. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 2114, designation of fire route and amendment to chapter 880 fire route, 1888 and 1900 Bayview Avenue. Councillor Robinson?
Yes, I would like to move staff recommendations.
Okay, staff recommendations moved on 2114. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 2115, naming of an existing public lane in a block bounded by Donley Drive, Laird Drive, Eglinton Avenue East, and Sutherland Drive. Councillor Robinson?
I'd like to move staff recommendations on that item.
Okay, staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 2116 is a timed item with a deputant, and 2117 has a deputant timed as well. We could.
Mr. Chair, you might want to just do the new items now because they're fairly straightforward.
You read my mind. I was just going to go to the new items, which are obviously not timed, and I don't know if anyone wants to be a deputant on that. There's a lot of demolition here.
Yes.
Okay. So
I can explain those.
2119 residential demolition application, 8 Greenbrier Road. Councillor.
Yes. Mr. Chair, items 19 through 23, the reason they're in separate reports, while they're being walked on as new items, it's because this is all one site. It's all part of one development, but they're still in separate lots. That a semblance of the lot hasn't happened, but they need to be, the demolition needs to go on because this site badly needs to be cleaned up. So staff rushed the report, but when they had to do all of the separate reports, they didn't get them done in time for the deadline. That's the only reason it's being walked on. These are staff's actual demolition reports. And so 19 through 23 all speak to the same development site. And I'm happy to move each of those items with number 3, the cleanup conditions being applied.
I just
Sorry,
have a
sorry for the
question.
interruption, Mr. Chair. It's Carly with City Clerks. Just to clarify, item 21.18 is also part of the demolition grouping. So it's
Oh,
items
sorry.
2118 to 21.23.
Right, 18 through 23, not 19 through 23. Thank you. Sorry.
So, quick question of either the mover or the staff. I'll start with Councillor Carroll. She probably knows the answer. Is there any rental housing involved in any of these sites?
No, these are single family dwellings that have been vacant for some time. It's part of the reason we're asking them to demolish now, even though they're not picking up the building permit right this very day. We're asking them to do the demolition and conditions of number 3, because there's an infestation problem because the homes have been vacant for so long. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So no tenant issues at all, because often single homes that have been owned by someone for a while will have tenants, and cumulatively they could have more than 4 out of 6 units.
Well, stay tuned, because that's the case on the other side of this very same street. Thanks.
Okay,
But,
'cause I
but
know
not on these properties.
I know legal staff used to be very concerned with any demolitions that might kind of usurp the. But as long as you've checked that out, that's fine. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. They're in favor of this one. It was just a matter of having to write them in separate reports that held up getting it onto the agenda in time. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
It sounds like the only tenants are a family of rats. Okay, so I'd be happy to take these as a package. You're going with option 3, which is the clearance of the site. So we can vote on 21. There we go. 2118 through 2123. Those are all yours? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed?
Sorry for the interruption, Mr. Chair. It's Carly with City Clerks again. Because there are motions on each item, we will need to vote on each item individually. Apologies.
I kind of had a feeling you'd jump in. Okay, all right. So we're gonna have to go through each one. 2118, it's been moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 2119. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 2120. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 2121. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 2122. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 2123. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And we have another 2124 is another walk-on motion. Clancy Drive parking prohibition. Councillor Carroll.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just very quickly, this is I know another one that's been walked on as a new item. Ordinarily, what you would do is bring a motion asking staff to conduct a poll, but this is a pretty dire situation, particularly if there's an accumulation of snow. And so staff recommended that if we didn't mind letter dropping and doing the poll ourselves and giving the results to them. And the situation here is so dangerous that, in fact, for my first time ever, I don't know about the rest of you, the poll was very well responded to and unanimous. And so staff helped draft this motion and would like to just proceed with the action.
Okay, so 2124 Clancy Drive parking prohibition. The staff recommendations are being moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We can go to 21.3, 9:45 timed item. Request for direction, zoning bylaw amendment, 717, 719, 723, and 733 Mount Pleasant Road. Councillor Robinson. And I don't have any deputants on this item.
Okay, well, I'll just, I'd like to say a few words on this application because a lot of hard work has gone into it. And as you can see by looking at it, it's incredibly well researched and detailed report. So I would like to start, Mr. Chair, by thanking our planning staff for this excellent report. I have to say, for the better part of this last year, Jason Brander has had a very difficult task as our planner, reviewing every single application in the Young Eglinton neighborhood. And as you all know, they are pouring in the applications. I have 2 planning meetings, public planning meetings, just this week alone. It's quite unsettling. And this is no easy task that Jason has been faced with, and he's done an excellent job. I also want to thank Jason's manager, Al Rozowski, all of you know him, and his attention on this file. It's also important to highlight the fact that local residents have been very engaged on this. And quite frankly, we've had newly formed residents group as a result of this very aggressive proposal that is mid-block and will really change the face of this area if approved. So I want to thank the newly formed Taunton residents group. They've done a great job, been very engaged, worked very hard. Sarah, the South Eglinton Ratepayers and Residents Association, and all, quite frankly, all the neighbors who have been involved in this application in the area, in the immediate area. We've received countless emails. We've had countless conference calls and virtual meetings. So thank you very much. It's always disappointing when applications are appealed to LPAT in advance of the city coming up with their decision. I find that very, this circumventing the planning process in Toronto is very frustrating, and it just happens constantly now, certainly in my ward. When this application was originally submitted, I would like my colleagues to know it was actually a mid-rise building, a 9-story. But after the Minister of Municipal Affairs unilaterally overhauled the City Council approved Young Eglinton secondary plan, you'll remember it well, Midtown in Focus, the heights just went gangbusters. So they actually basically got rid of all our height limits and put on their own and made them extraordinarily high. This application was resubmitted after being 9 stories to 27 stories. And if you haven't seen a picture, a visual always helps. So here we go. Here's this beautiful neighborhood, and I don't know if you can see this, but boom, up's going this. Or that's what's being proposed. So I'm very pleased to see this report, as are the immediate neighbors, the local associations. I think planners have done an excellent job. And I just really concerned still to this day about the province's role in, again, circumventing, and basically years of consultation and work went into this Midtown in Focus, years of it, by so many people, including planners, the local councillors, and residents, and it was all turned on its head. So I'm just really happy. I can't tell you how happy I am with how detailed this report is and nuanced. I think that it's one of the best reports I've seen that has come out of planning. And I think I hope that you will join me in supporting this report today. And I hope the residents continue to stay engaged. The TDSB has expressed their strong opposition to this application because of school capacity issues in the area. And we just want to build a great city. And this is not good planning. This is clearly not good planning for multiple reasons, including the fact that it's not a mid-rise, and where it should be a mid-rise, and it's mid-block. It's mid-block. So I could go on about this application for hours because so much time's been invested, but I'll wrap it up there. Thank everyone involved, and really just want to again thank the planners for such a great report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Carroll?
Yes, Mr. Chair, probably my question is it can be a question of the mover and it would speed things up. Um, uh, Councillor Robinson, I'm facing a similar challenge because of the provincial action up along the Shepherd Avenue secondary plan, although they didn't go to the extra mile of rewriting the plan and making it a law. Their intensification around the Shepherd subway stations is causing me the same problem where it's a shallow site and a single family dwelling right behind it. So I'd like to ask questions of the planner, but in your view, the recommendation is to continue discussions with the applicant. Would it be better if I asked those offline so that perhaps you could come to a minutes of settlement, continuing those discussions, rather than me unpack it right here and now?
Yeah, I think that would be a better approach.
Okay. And if by some miracle we didn't have to fight it because they came to their senses and you had a minutes of settlement, that would come to council anyway, and I could read that.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, that's the plan. Okay, then I won't unpack this neighborhood problem right here and now. But I'd love for you to keep me posted because I'll stay in touch with planners because it's causing us, the Bill 108 is causing us the same problem along Shepherd after years of trying to control that. It's now open season on the shallow sites that have single family dwellings right behind them. Thank you for your fight.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your comments.
These planning files are a handful.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chair, I would like to move staff recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Robinson. Staff recommendations moved on 21-3. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 21-4, also a timed item for 9:45. I don't see any deputants on this item. Request for directional report, official plan, and zoning bylaw amendment applications 40, 42, 44, 46, and 48 Hendon Avenue. Councillor Fillion.
Of the staff recommendations.
Staff recommendations moved on item 21-4. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. I have exactly 10 o'clock, so I think we can go to item 21-16. It is application to remove a private tree at 147 Fenn Avenue. And we do have a deputant on this item. Is Sandy Romas on the line?
Yes, hello, good morning.
Oh, hi, Ms. Romas. Thank you very much for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you. I've come to council to appeal an application submitted to forestry in March 2020 to remove a private tree from my property. After the application was denied, I was in touch with Councillor Robinson's office and various staff from forestry. In July 2020, I received an email from forestry stating the following. We sympathize with your situation. However, the private tree bylaw includes no direction on how to handle the situation, accessibility issues, conflict. Therefore, we must deny the request. In addition, forestry submitted a document to council this morning, which outlines that Chapter 813 does not provide provision to address my concerns. As such, I'm here today to ask council to consider the circumstances that I'm about to present. I live with my spouse and my elementary school age child at 147 Fenn Avenue. The honey locust tree is located in the rear of my yard. I live with disability and have mobility issues. The purpose of the request is because the tree is hazardous and impedes accessibility from the pathway to access and enjoy my backyard from the side of the house due to an aggressive root system. The tree has multiple roots above grade and has lifted the pavers, rendering the patio inaccessible or challenging to pass over for persons with assisted devices, wheelchairs, walkers, canes, and such, and for those who suffer from stability and mobility issues. There's risk of injury and toppling over and a tripping hazard. The tree and root system has altered the grading of the area so that water no longer runs away from my home, but rather towards the home, causing a cooling effect. This is likely causing a compromising situation on the foundation of my home, as we've experienced some dampness in the basement area in recent months. It is likely to get worse over time and cause further damage if not removed. Also, the proximity of the tree to our home, slight lean, and canopy are also likely to cause serious damage to our home should it be compromised by natural causes. The tree is currently 2 to 2.5 meters away from from the back of my house. There has been damage to our property from 2 trees of similar condition and vintage in recent years. The roots are approximately 20 centimeters above grade in certain areas and in parts of the walkway, and significantly more at the base. It appears to lean towards the house. The canopy of the tree is beyond the roof line, and much is directly over my home. The patio is not level, and the grading has been altered due to the aggressive roots, and water drains towards the foundation of my house as a result. We rarely spend time in our yard due to safety concerns and accessibility. As recently as this past November, when my child did go into the yard, she was walking on the patio, tripped on one of the roots, and went headfirst into a chair. Luckily, the fall did not require a trip to the hospital during a pandemic. If this had been anyone other than the resident, I hate to think what the liability would have been. Insurance-wise, removing the tree, creating an accessible and stable pathway and patio mitigates risk and liability to people and property. As a homeowner, I feel I'm doing the responsible thing by my appeal. Forestry suggested that the walkway can be repaired. I don't believe this is a viable solution. In order for the patio and walkway to be repaired without injuring and removing the tree roots would mean I would have to raise the grade of the area of the path. Conservatively, that could be close to 30 centimeters of soil above the current grade, basically to smother the roots. With the tree intact and the amount of elevation required to level the path and make it safe and accessible, I don't believe that there would be sufficient distance between the ground doors and windows as per building code requirements. In addition, in order for there to be proper drainage, so as to not risk property damage to the foundation and area, the tree would have to be graded away from the home, not draining and having runoff to the home as it currently is. Without removing the tree roots in the pathway, and the areas around, a flat space cannot be accommodated in order for a barrier-free path, ramps, or level ground to satisfy accessibility needs. As such, I have briefly explained how the recommendation to prune or treat or cut or leave the tree or fix the walkway by rebuilding the sublayer and relaying stones would not solve the accessibility issues, drainage, or liability to persons or property. I suspect it would be highly unlikely that I could satisfy building code requirements or accessibility requirements with this recommendation too. As such, this would not resolve any issues that the tree and root system impose based on my application. As a homeowner and taxpayer, sorry, I just have 2 lines for my closer.
Okay.
As a homeowner and taxpayer, one would hope to feel safe and to be able to access your property with the needs and requirements that you have. This current health crisis has obviously impacted us all, and we know that isolation and risk is magnified for the elderly and disabled and children. I think that the quality of life and safety of people in our community is valued and recognized, whether it be in public or private property. I'd like to be able to access and enjoy my yard with my family safely and peacefully, especially during stay-at-home orders, remote learning, and lockdown.
Okay.
So I'm just asking, I don't believe that this would be, as mentioned in my comments, the reason why I'm really here is because the forestry bylaw does not address my issues or conflicts. So I'm hoping that you might be able to grant me my appeal. Thank you for your time.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions for the deputant? I don't see any hands going up. Sandy, thank you very much. Questions for staff? Councillor Robinson, Councillor Carroll?
Councillor Carroll can go first.
Councillor Carroll?
Yes, well, it was just a quick question of staff. I note that in the report you said that the arborist report that accompanied the application did not give a condition for the tree. Do we not is that not explicit in our instructions for applying for a tree removal, that the arborist report should tell us what the condition of the tree is?
I hope everyone can hear me through you, Mr. Chair. It's a standard component of an arborist report, but there's no fixed format for arborist reports, and it's not uncommon for them to be written in sort of a free form. And in this case, we were, in reviewing the arborist report, it doesn't specifically state, this tree is in X, Y, Z condition.
Yeah, he never gets around to saying it's fair, poor, good, excellent, whatever. He never gets around to saying. Okay.
That's correct.
I just found that kind of interesting. I never noticed that before.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Robinson?
Okay, so I just want to expand on Councillor Carroll's question. Staff had relayed to our office, not to me directly, but to my office, that indeed it was a completely healthy tree and maintainable. Is that actually, can we get clarification on that? Because I'm now confused.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that's correct. The context of the application in this case, it was submitted as a non-construction request, and so much of the information that the deputant spoke to is not information that we can consider. For us, it's simply a request related to the removal of the tree. We do attend sites like this to inspect the tree ourselves. We're not basing our response and our outcome on the arborist report alone. And so we did attend at the site, and we confirmed that the tree is healthy. And as a healthy tree outside of a construction context, there's no means within the bylaw to approve the removal, and it's not something we'd support.
So sorry, just to be clear, this is not, you don't support the removal of this tree?
In the context within which the application has been framed, that is correct. As a non-construction request, a lot of the information about the relaying of the patio isn't eligible for us to consider during that request. Okay.
And there was the deputant, my resident, and I'm grateful she's come today and explained her position. But we're trying to, as a council, we're trying to figure out how to navigate this. It seems like a difficult one, but there was talk about uneven patios and threats to the foundation. Is that something that what's your position on that? What's your perspective on this?
If this were a construction-related application, the construction being relaying the patio and the connection there being, or the tentative position or scenario being that the removal of the tree is necessary to accomplish the construction that is proposed. At this time, if I had to sort of project where we would stand in that, we don't have enough information on the table from the applicant in terms of concrete documentation that the removal of the tree would be necessary to effect the repairs. From our perspective, it's a layperson identifying that they can't accommodate the tree roots in repairing the uneven patio. Our perspective, my experience is that there is a good possibility that the tree could be retained. And that it hasn't been sufficiently explored for us to say with certainty that, or for us to be confident that the tree would require removal.
Okay. Well, you can see this is really difficult for council to decide what to do because we're hearing about accessibility issues. So that's a concern. Have you investigated to the point that, or is COVID a problem in all of this? Have you investigated this to determine whether there's accessibility issues? Because I certainly have not been to the property.
I personally haven't been to the property. If the information that has been conveyed by the deputy is correct, and I have no reason to think it isn't, there would be an access or accessibility issue for persons with mobility concerns or wheelchairs on the existing walkway. It is uneven enough that there would be an accessibility concern. As noted in her comments and in our staff report, the private tree bylaw includes no direction or gives no direction where an accessibility concern is raised, and so we have a duty to push it to council effectively because the bylaw doesn't identify how to handle that.
And so is there a way to resolve the accessibility issues, related to this, specifically to the patio, without removing the tree? Is there a way to have a win-win here and accomplish both? Again, for me, it's challenging because usually I would go to the site and go see it, and I haven't been able to do that for obvious reasons. So I just wonder if there's a way to have a win-win here, that the patio could be, the issues with the patio and the accessibility issues could be resolved and the tree be maintained. I don't know if you could answer.
Yeah, I can. We would hope that would be possible. It would require a collaborative review or investigation, including people who are qualified to relay the patio, including tree experts like a private arborist, and possibly including someone who can speak to the zoning issues around, if the regrading is necessary, if it's necessary to raise the level of the soil between the tree and the house. Does that create a zoning issue or a bylaw issue that's not related to urban forestry? So it is entirely possible that the tree could be retained, but it's a possibility that hasn't been explored at this point.
All right, we're at 6 minutes. I just have a very quick question. There's a line on here on page 2. Tree roots are not physically capable of exerting enough force to lift or crack properly constructed and maintain infrastructure such as dwelling foundations and walkways. And I must admit, I've been to mostly neighborhoods in the United States. I used to go down to New York a lot when my daughter was there, Queens and Brooklyn. Their sidewalks are so buckled, and it's usually adjacent to large trees. When you say properly constructed, would you conclude that those sidewalks are poorly constructed, or that their roots are overly aggressive?
I have taken issue internally with the specific nature of that language. I will say that I don't agree with it. I think you correctly ascertained that in situations where we're dealing with something like an interlock patio, it is possible under normal circumstances for tree roots to heave and buckle those structures. I would modify that statement if I had the choice. Please bear in mind that the staff report was co-authored by a number of parties, but I would modify that statement to say things like foundations and well-built concrete driveways are robust enough that if they're properly built, tree roots won't create problems for them. But I wouldn't include interlock walkways in that statement. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Robinson, what would you like to do with this?
Well, that's a great question. I don't know. I feel like there needs to be a bit more investigation that take place here. I don't know how my colleagues feel about this. It seems like I feel very, I feel very sad for the owner, for Sandy and the family that lives at 147 Fenn. And she's identified that this is a very challenging situation for her family. For herself and her family. So I would like to be helpful. At the same time, council's very committed to maintaining trees. I mean, if you look at the voting record of City Council on trees in the last few years, the tree seems to win. So I don't know what to do with it. If any of my brilliant colleagues have ideas, but one idea might be to defer it to provide ample time for further investigation, so staff could come back with maybe more comprehensive and solid answers. But I'll throw to Councillor Carroll. I see she's got her hand up.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Carroll.
Well, Mr. Chair, if the local councillor wants to defer it, I'll vote for that. But I would be prepared today to move the staff recommendation for refusal. And I know that comes as very bad news to the resident, but I'll tell you why. What I pulled out of the report when I read it is we have a honey locust tree, that where it is and how it would have to be removed and how it has to be paid for and replaced at a significant cost is a costly endeavor. But what the report recommends are ways to take that same money and spend it ameliorating the situation, redoing the path so that it is level, building soil and recompacting it so that the roots are covered and you've got a better base on which to build a proper path. Both of these courses of action are going to cost some money, but both of them would result in a change. The reason I'm in favor of asking that the resident, if they wanted to solve their path issues, they do it by simply doing the soil buildup and redoing that path, is because I think they're going to have to, if the mobility is the issue, they would remove the tree and still have to do that. They're still going to have to rebuild and replace that path. And there's a way to do it that saves the tree. And so that I think would be in keeping not only with the policy, but with council of the whole, because this appeal would have to go to the whole of council. It would be in keeping with their usual pattern of determining these things from the report. So we can defer if the councillor wants to move that, but I would put the staff recommendations on the table as a motion today as well.
Yeah, I usually lean towards what the local councillor wants to do on these matters. Deferral is fine to give us more time to think this through. I'm a little concerned about the response to my question that there was internal debate on whether to put that telltale sentence on page 2, which really leans the report for a denial. So, but if it's the will of council, I would support I would support a removal, a motion to remove or defer. So, Councillor Robinson, what's the plan?
Well, I think we should proceed with Councillor Carroll's motion, and then if that,
yeah, I'm putting it on the table. Yeah,
she said she's putting it on the table, and we all know what will happen at City Council anyway. No matter what the circumstances are, City Council will overturn Community Council's decision. We all know that. Like, let's be honest. It's the elephant in the room. Is no matter what this body decides, it will go to City Council for final approval, just to explain to the residents. And City Council, no matter what the issue, seems to overturn Community Council decision or further endorses. So I think we should proceed with Councillor Carroll's motion, and if that, whatever happens there, then I would place the other deferral motion. Does that make sense, Mr. Chair? Or
doesn't the deferral come first?
Yeah, that is fine. Sorry, Deputy Mayor?
I don't know the procedure.
The deferral comes first, doesn't it?
Madam Clerk, that's my understanding too. A motion to defer comes first.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
that's fine.
We would vote on Councillor Robinson's motion first, and then on Councillor Carroll's move to support the staff recommendations. Okay. Councillor Robinson has moved deferral to the next scheduled Community Council meeting. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 2117. Now, Madam Clerk, we have already reopened this item, and that's how it got here. We reopened and then deferred. So we don't have to reopen this item again. It is on the floor for debate. Is that correct?
That is correct. We reopened at the last meeting in order to allow clerks to provide notice, and the item is here for debate now.
Okay, we do have a deputant. I believe it's the property owner. Uban
Ubendanranov
Ubendanranov
quite a mouthful. Yes.
Kalisharan.
That's correct. Yes.
I hope I've got that close. Ubendaranov?
Yeah, Ubendranath Kalicharan.
Kalicharan. Okay, thank you very much for coming. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, councillors, for reopening this issue. Good morning. I just wanted to present the perspective of the homeowner in this matter. We've been living at that residence for over 22 years on 26901 Bayview. The reason we constructed that fence in that manner was because of an incident that occurred approximately 3 years ago when the construction actually commenced. A motor vehicle at high speed collided with the power line, the hydro pole in front of our property, and broke and swing onto our fence and took the whole fence down. So that hydro pole in front of our property has been replaced. The impact was hard enough, and to break the hydro pole. And at that point, we had to replace the fence. We approached a local contractor who had done many projects in the neighborhood, building very similar fences for the project. The property line where the fence is was like that when we purchased the property 22 years ago. It's right in line with the northern neighbor and southern neighbors. It's only after the fence was constructed that we were made aware that there was encroachment onto city property, and I could only speculate why the fence was built along that line. And part of the reason is there are three mature trees in the front of the property within our yard, and more on our neighbor's property. And that would have impeded the building of the fence along the property line. As a result, the fence was pushed more onto the city property. We have made an application for an encroachment. The fees have been paid. All the locates have been cleared, and so there were some issues when I reviewed the YouTube video from the last meeting that were brought up, and I just wish to clarify some of them. First of all, regarding visibility, it is a half wall, so there is clear visibility within our when exiting our yard. The main impediment to visibility is actually from our south neighbor, which has a solid wooden fence. That's always is traffic approaching from that direction that is more of concern to us when we're exiting, since our driveway is about a meter away from our southern neighbor. The half wall allows great visibility for the northern part of our property. However, to improve this, I mean, there is always a possibility of installing a mirror or a closed loop camera without recording to provide better visibility. The other issue brought up was the snow clearance. We've been there for 22 years. Our neighbor has a solid wooden fence at the same line, and there hasn't been any issues there. This construction, it may not be obvious from the pictures, but the half wall is actually floating. It's not constructed solidly onto the ground. It's resting on the pillars. So there is a space at the bottom there that allows, that would, for example, allow snow to be pushed. Also, it gives clear access, unobstructed access to all utilities. You can dig under those walls. So I think, a lot of those, I just wanted to present some of these factors from the homeowner's point of view. We approached this contractor with the belief that he was knowledgeable with the city bylaws and and would, construct it as appropriate. And we were assured many times that this was in fact the case. So now we are left in the lurch, holding this short end of the stick. And I would just wish you to reconsider the application.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions for the deputant?
Yes.
Councillor Robinson?
Okay, just to, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just to be clear, this incident that happened in 2017, I want to call it an accident, but a car basically came flying onto your property. And my understanding is your children often are out there. You have young children out playing. That was my understanding from your partner, a very scary experience, this car flying, and that's why you built this fence. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, it is. Because it's on the main street, there is always speeding vehicles. There are many times a trap for cops because people are speeding to get on the highway.
Yeah,
so
we're most of us are very familiar with Bayview Avenue and the problems with speeding on Bayview Avenue, and volume too. So that's good to understand. And the contractor gave you the impression that the fence was completely within the bylaw, correct?
We have been. That's correct. Yes, because I'm not. This is actually the first time I've ever had any issues with city or any legal matters. So I really trusted that he would be. Since that's what he did, I honestly thought he would.
Yeah. Okay. And the other outstanding issue, along with the sight lines, is the encroachment piece. I just want to confirm. You did say it, but I want to confirm that you have applied for that encroachment agreement, correct?
Yes, we have applied for it. The fees have been paid, and that application has been. Yeah. We have forwarded a copy of the receipt also. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Any other questions for the deputant? No questions for staff? I just have a couple. So the plan here is an encroachment agreement, and I think some slight modifications to the height, which will have it conform. Is that a pathway to approval?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. It's Elena Sangiliano from Municipal Licensing and Standards. I'm going to defer to my colleague, Ronald Baird, from Transportation Services, who was asked to also be present today as the encroachment agreement would go through Transportation Services. So perhaps he could speak to that portion of it. Please and thank you.
Yeah, hi, it's Ronald Baird. To the chair, it basically, yeah, they would need modifications. The two main posts at the front cause a sight line. They're pretty high, and they would need to do some kind of modification to just open it up and create visibility for pedestrians and such.
So it looks like with an encroachment agreement and modifications, this fence would conform.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Robinson, to speak. Oh, sorry.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Oh, go ahead. Question. Councillor Carroll, I didn't see you there.
Yeah, I now need clarification because what we have before us doesn't give us the ability to ensure that these modifications would happen. If we don't have a very specific recommendation with very specific modifications in it, neither recommendation that exists in the reports helps us to guarantee that those sight lines would be addressed, et cetera, et cetera. Am I right in that?
Mr. Baird?
Yes, that's, I would say that would probably be correct, yes.
So if
So
we vote,
we
so
could, we
if
could go
these,
back and after if they don't make the changes. We can't personally recommend what changes
right,
would be
or we
because
could simply, would it not be a simple course of action would be to once again adopt refusal, and if the resident wants to have a fence here, he will build a modified fence, and that one will pass your recommendations. Is that not a streamlined way of achieving the same end?
I think so, yeah.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Councillor Robinson, I see your hand is back up.
Yeah, I do have a very specific motion that's been written by staff that addresses Councillor Carroll's concerns, but I do see Elena, I think, with her hand up. I think she'd like to speak on this.
I just wanted to further add through you, Mr. Chair, just in response to will the fence then comply? So we just something for the councillors to keep in mind that the fence exemption application that's before you is with respect to the fence that's on the private property, which does not comply. It just so happens that in this incident, part of the fence is also encroaching on city property, which is the big factor here because it is indeed causing a sightline obstruction. So just to answer the question, if the encroachment agreement is satisfied that they make the modifications and Transportation Services grants the encroachment agreement, does not make the rest of the fence in compliance. However, council can move to pass the fence exemption, which would allow then the fence that's on the private property, which municipal licensing and standards regulates under our fence bylaw, and that is before council today, to be permitted to remain as is. I just wanted to clarify that point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Councillor Robinson.
So I have quite an extensive motion because I know this council is concerned about sightlines, as am I, and I share their concerns. But I have quite a detailed motion that has been actually not written by me, but written by staff. I don't know if there's a way, it's been submitted to the clerk this morning. I don't know if there's a way to show council this long motion.
We'd love to see it.
There it is. Okay, here we go. So these are the things that staff have altered A, B, and F, and you see the alterations and the modifications in front of you. If I can zero in on F, the fence shall be installed in such a manner that site restrictions for drivers and pedestrians are eliminated. I think that's again written by staff and comprehensive. I just do want to say there's a bit of a side story to this, and that's why I asked it to be reopened. This is actually the very first time we've heard from the property owner. Previously, councils didn't hear from anybody because they showed up at the site versus coming on to the council meeting. They thought the meeting was at the site. The second meeting, it was the contractor who I understand did not do maybe the best job articulating the position to council. You know, this is a family, a young family living here. There's been very serious safety concerns on Bayview Avenue, including this incident that happened to their own family in 2017, where a vehicle completely lost control and ended up on their front lawn. And so they went, we're going to build a fence. We're going to build a fence to make sure our children are safe. So I think the applicant, the deputant, did a good job in saying they're working hard to address the concerns, including the encroachment and now the sight lines. And there are very mature trees behind this fence that we are trying to preserve, beautiful old trees. And so this motion, as I said, has been written by staff and would have to be abided by in order to make this all come to an end, a resolution.
Anyone else to speak? Yeah, Deputy Mayor Minnan-Wong.
Yeah, thank you. Chair, I'm going to support the staff recommendations. There's some serious issues with regard to this particular file. You know, we have these bylaws and restrictions for a reason. If we didn't have these restrictions, people could be building fences close to the sidewalk and blocking property lines everywhere. And if they relied on the fact that, children were involved, that would mean we would have to provide exemption for every property where children live.
Mr. Chair, I'm having trouble hearing. Somebody's not muted, so there's page turning and stuff. Yeah.
No, yeah. So I hope every non-speaker is muted, including me.
So just to finish, the idea that there are children, if that wasn't a reason why we would allow for every exemption, there would be fences everywhere, and they wouldn't comply with the bylaw. From a policy point of view, I don't agree with that. And the sight lines that were mentioned by staff, you are actually trading off one safety issue and creating another. So I think we spent a lot of time considering this. I think it's time to take a decision. And my decision, you look at Bayview Avenue, we shouldn't be having fences along Bayview Avenue. There's some nice houses along there. And if we were to have a line of fences down that entire street, I think that street would suffer. Bayview Avenue is a beautiful street. And, with generous yards and some beautiful homes and some mature trees, I don't think building fences really improves the sightlines of those streets or the general, look of what Bayview Avenue should be. So I'm going to support staff recommendations, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other speakers on the item? No? I think I've made my position clear. I think it's a reasonable pathway to a compromise. I do agree that a world of fences doesn't always lead to good neighbors, but in this case, I'm a little sympathetic to the family. A compromise is in order. Okay, so I believe we're voting on Councillor Robinson's motion.
Can I just clarify, Mr. Chair? We'll have an opportunity to vote on either the motion or Councillor Minnan-Wong's motion of staff recommendation to refuse.
Well, I believe
we'll have a choice. We'll be asked to vote on both of those.
Well, if Councillor Robinson's motion carries, any other motion is redundant.
Right, but if it doesn't, we will have the opportunity to vote on Councillor Minnan-Wong's staff recommendations for refusal. Okay, thank you.
Right, yeah. If it doesn't carry, we then go back to the staff report and the two options. Okay, Councillor Robinson's motion. We put it on the screen. All those in favor? Opposed? Did that lose on a tie? Madam Clerk, did that lose on a tie? I don't see everybody.
I believe it lost on a vote of 2 in favor and 3 against, from what I can see.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it was, I'm sorry, that didn't carry. Now, Deputy Mayor Minnan-Wong has moved the refusal option on the staff report. There we go. All those in favor? You're muted. Okay.
Sorry, I just looked. The recommendations are basically. I'm not. I am moving recommendation number 1. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
It's refusal, right?
Yes,
okay.
That's right.
All those in favor, and I don't see Councillor Carroll. So not a recorded vote, but I see Councillor Fillion, Councillor Deputy Mayor Minnan-Wong, and Councillor Carroll. That's 3. Opposed, Councillor Robinson and Councillor Pasternak. That carries. Okay, the bills. Put those on the screen.
This might be a record for North York Community Council.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Fillion, do you want to do the bill? Councillor Fillion? Councillor Robinson?
James.
That the North York Community Council pass and declare as bylaws Bill 21 to 25 prepared for the January 13th, 2021 meeting 21 of the Community Council.
All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. One more. There we go. Councillor Carroll?
Sure. That the North York Community Council pass and declares a bylaw confirmatory bill to confirm the legislative proceedings of the North York Community Council acting under delegated authority at meeting 21 on January 13th, 2021.
All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And that concludes our business for today. Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you very much, clerk staff. And of course, thank you very much, IT. And be safe out there.